The morning sun painted the sky orange and pink above. New Seoul Colony. Kim Dae-ho stood on his porch drinking coffee that still tasted like home. He watched his 8-year-old daughter Sora run through the rice fields chasing the pretty blue butterflies that only lived on Hanbok Prime. The little girl laughed as she jumped over the small streams that fed their crops. Her bright yellow dress fluttered in the gentle breeze that carried the sweet smell of growing grain. 15 years had passed since the first humans arrived on this peaceful world. The colony now had 3,000 people living in small towns scattered across the green valleys. Everyone knew everyone else. Children played together in the streets while their parents worked the fertile land that gave them everything they needed. The purple mountains in the distance stood like gentle guardians watching over their simple lives. Captain Park Min-soo floated in his small defense ship high above the colony. His job was easy because nothing dangerous ever happened in this part of space. The ship was old and slow, but it worked fine for checking on cargo vessels and helping lost travelers. Min-soo spent most of his time reading books and talking to his wife on the radio. His biggest worry was usually running out of good coffee. The galaxy had been at peace for over 100 years. Humans were known everywhere as the best farmers and traders. They grew food that fed dozens of worlds and built machines that made life easier for everyone. The Hegemony Treaty promised that all species would respect each other and share space peacefully. Most aliens thought humans were soft and gentle creatures who would never hurt anyone. Lee Hae-won was teaching her class about Earth when the first warning came. Her 20 students sat quietly listening to stories about the blue oceans and white clouds of their ancestors' homeworld. She showed them pictures of great cities and green forests that their grandparents had left behind to find new places to live. The children asked many questions about the animals and plants they had never seen. On Park, Soo-jin raised her hand and asked why humans had left such a beautiful world behind. Hae-won smiled and explained that humans were explorers who loved to discover new places and meet new people. Soo-jin nodded seriously and said she wanted to visit Earth someday to see the real butterflies and smell the real flowers that grew there. The first sign of trouble came from the sky. Captain Min-soo noticed strange readings on his sensors. Ships were approaching from the edge of the system, but they were not sending the usual friendly signals that traders used. He tried to contact them but got no, and so the ships were moving fast and there were many of them down in the colony. Kim Dae-ho saw his daughter stop chasing butterflies and look up at the sky with worry. The morning light was changing color, becoming red and angry-looking. Other people came out of their houses and stores to see what was happening. Children stopped playing and moved closer to their parents there. Alien ships came down from the clouds like angry metal birds. They were dark and covered with weapons that hummed with dangerous energy. The ships belonged to the Vorthan Empire, a race of tall reptile creatures who believed they were better than everyone else. The Vorthans had green scales and yellow eyes that showed no kindness. They thought mammals, like humans, were weak and disgusting. General Vex Khan led the attack from his command ship. He had been planning this for months. The Vorthans were tired of sharing space with creatures they saw as inferior. They wanted to show the galaxy that soft species like humans had no right to claim good worlds for themselves. The attack on New Seoul Colony would be their message to everyone. Captain Min-soo tried to fight, but his old ship was no match for the Vorthan warships. His weapons were meant for scaring away pirates, not fighting a real battle. He managed to send one emergency message toward Earth before enemy fire tore his ship apart. The message would take 3 days to reach home. If it reached home at all, the bombing started without warning. Bright beams of energy fell from the sky like deadly rain. Buildings exploded and caught fire. People ran screaming through the streets looking for places to hide. The beautiful rice fields that had fed the colony for years turned into burning wasteland. In minutes, Lee Hae-won heard the explosions and saw the fire through her classroom window. She grabbed little Soo-jin and pushed all her students under their desks. The school building shook as bombs fell nearby. The teacher covered the children with her own body as the ceiling began to crack and pieces of concrete fell around them. Kim Dae-ho ran toward the school to find his daughter, but the streets were full of smoke and fire. He saw his neighbors lying still in the wreckage of their homes. The pretty blue butterflies that Sora loved were gone. The streams that watered their crops ran red with blood and ash. The Vorthan soldiers came down in small ships after the bombing. They walked through the burning colony with their weapons ready, killing anyone they found alive. They wanted to make sure no one survived to tell others what had happened. Their yellow eyes showed no feeling as they did their terrible work only. One human escaped the massacre. Choi Byung-ho was working in the underground tunnels that carried power and water to the colony when the attack began. He heard the explosions above but could not get out. The tunnels were too damaged and filled with smoke. He found his way to the emergency communication room deep below the surface. Byung-ho worked frantically to send a message to Earth. His hands shook as he typed the words that would tell his homeworld what had happened to New Seoul Colony. He could hear Vorthan soldiers searching the tunnels above looking for survivors. The communication equipment was damaged but still working barely. The message was simple but terrible. The Vorthans had destroyed everything and killed everyone. The beautiful colony that had been a symbol of peace was now a graveyard. The soldiers were getting closer to his hiding place. He could hear their heavy footsteps and harsh voices echoing through the tunnels. By Ho finished his message and sent it toward Earth just as the Vorthan soldiers found him. The last thing he saw was their yellow eyes staring at him with cold hatred. His final words were recorded in the message, a warning that the galaxy was no longer safe for peaceful people. The attack was over in 2 hours. 3,000 humans were dead. The colony, that had taken 15 years to build, was destroyed in less than 1 day. The Vorthons left satisfied that they had sent their message to the galaxy. Soft species like humans would learn to fear their betters. But the Vorthons had made one terrible mistake. They thought they knew what humans were like. They had forgotten that peace is a choice, not a weakness. They did not know that somewhere in the darkness of space a message was traveling toward Earth, carrying news that would wake something that had been sleeping for a very long time. The dragon was about to open its eyes. Admiral Kim Ji-woo walked slowly through the war memorial in Seoul on Earth. The massive building held the names of every human soldier who had died in battle over the past 1,000 years. Most visitors came here to remember their ancestors, but Ji-woo came here to think about the future. The walls were covered with stories of battles that happened so long ago that most people had forgotten them. The memorial was usually quiet because humans had been at peace for so long. Children learned about wars in history class, but they could not imagine their parents and grandparents as warriors. The galaxy knew humans as gentle traders who grew food and built useful machines. Nobody remembered the old days when human fleets conquered half the galaxy before choosing to stop fighting. Ji-woo stopped in front of a wall that showed pictures from the last Great War 400 years ago. The images were hard to look at. Human soldiers stood on burning alien worlds holding weapons that could destroy entire cities. The admiral touched one picture that showed Earth fleet commanders accepting the surrender of 3 different alien empires. The emergency meeting of the Terran Defense Council was supposed to discuss new trade routes with the Centauri Merchants Guild chairman Yu Taimin was reading reports about grain shipments when the priority message arrived from deep space. The room had 12 members who managed Earth defense, but they spent most of their time organizing cargo schedules and patrol routes. The message from Choi Byung-ho played on the main screen, showing the burning ruins of New Seoul Colony. His voice shook with fear and pain as he described the Vorthan attack. The recording was hard to watch because it showed the bodies of people everyone knew. The children playing in the streets just hours before were now lying still in the wreckage. Chairman Yoon stopped the recording when they heard the Vorthan soldiers getting closer to Byung-ho hiding place. The room was completely silent as the 12 council members realized what they had just seen. The peaceful colony that sent them vegetables and happy letters every month was gone. All 3,000 people were dead, including the children. Admiral Kim Ji-woo stood up slowly and looked at each council member with eyes that seemed different than they had been just minutes before. The gentle expression that humans were famous for was disappearing, replaced by something cold and dangerous. The other members felt uncomfortable under his stare because they had never seen him look like that before. Within 1 hour, every human world received the same message. The peaceful farmers on Mars stopped working their fields and walked to old storage buildings they had not opened in decades. The miners on Titan put down their tools and started looking for things they had hidden away long ago. Even the children seemed to understand that something important was changing. Colonel Song Myung commanded the Mars Defense Force, which was really just a few old ships used for rescue missions. She received orders to open the sealed armories that had been locked since the peace treaty. The heavy doors had not been moved in centuries. When they finally opened, everyone could see weapons and equipment that looked like they belonged in a museum. The armories were full of things that most humans had forgotten existed. Plasma rifles that could burn through alien armor like paper, portable shields that could stop tank shells, battlesuits that made soldiers stronger and faster than any alien warrior, space mines that could destroy entire fleets, ships designed only for war with no other purpose. Engineer Nam Hoseok worked at the Titan shipyards, building cargo vessels and passenger ships. The yards had been converted for military use so long ago that most workers did not know what they used to make. When the orders came to switch back to warship production, Hateok had to find old blueprints that were stored in forgotten computer files. The blueprints showed ship designs that were completely different from the peaceful vessels. Humans had been building ships with thick armor and powerful weapons that could fight entire alien fleets. Ships with names like destroyer and battlecruiser and dreadnought, ships built for one purpose only: to win wars against anyone who threatened human lives. The Hegemony Council tried to prevent a war before it could start. The council included representatives from 50 different alien species who worked together to keep peace in the galaxy. They had been successful for over a century and did not want to see that peace destroyed by one violent ambassador. Kelta of the Thraxian Republic was chosen to visit Earth and negotiate with the humans. He had always thought humans were harmless creatures who would rather talk than fight. His own species were known as great diplomats who could solve any problem with the right words. Kelta was confident he could calm the situation quickly. The Thraxian ambassador arrived at Earth expecting to meet with gentle farmers and merchants who would be grateful for his help. Instead, he found himself sitting across from Admiral Kim Ji-woo in a room filled with pictures of human military victories. The admiral looked at him with eyes that reminded Keltar of the great predators from his home. World Keltar began his speech about peace and understanding, but Admiral Jiwoo interrupted him with a voice that was quiet but somehow terrible. The admiral spoke slowly, making sure every word was clear and could not be misunderstood. His message was simple, but it made the alien ambassador afraid. The Vorthan Empire had 72 hours to surrender a military officer who participated in the attack on New Sol Colony. They would be brought to Earth to face trial for murdering innocent people. If the Vorthans refused to surrender these criminals, then they would learn why the galaxy used to fear the name human. Ambassador Keltar tried to argue that the Hegemony Council should handle the situation through normal diplomatic channels, but Admiral Gu showed him classified files about human military capability that the Council had kept secret for centuries. The files contained numbers and statistics that made Keltar realize how badly he had misunderstood the species he thought he knew. The Thraxian ambassador left Earth that same day to warn his government about what he had learned. The peaceful humans who had been content to grow food and build machines for 400 years were remembering who their ancestors had been. The sleeping giant was waking up, and it was angrier than anyone had imagined possible back on Earth. Admiral Kim Gi-woo returned to the war memorial, but this time he was not alone. Thousands of humans came to look at the old pictures and read the names of warriors who had died long ago. They were remembering stories their grandparents had told them about the days when human fleets ruled the stars. The memorial was no longer a quiet place for thinking about the past. It had become a gathering place for people preparing for war. Families brought their children to show them what humans could do when they were angry. Elderly people who remembered the old stories began teaching the young ones about fighting and winning. The galaxy was about to learn that 400 years of peace had not made humans weak, it had only let them rest. The dragon had been sleeping, but now it was beginning to stir. The Vorthans had made the biggest mistake in galactic history by attacking people who could not defend themselves. They were about to discover what happened when you hurt someone a dragon loved. General Vex Khan stood on the bridge of his flagship laughing at the human message. His yellow eyes gleamed with amusement as he read Admiral Kim Gi-woo demand for surrender. The Vorthan commander had personally ordered the destruction of New Sol Colony and felt proud of what his soldiers had accomplished. The weak mammals had been taught their place in the galaxy. The Vorthan Empire controlled the second largest fleet in known space. 10,000 warships patrolled their territory, keeping other species afraid and obedient. General Vex Khan had conquered 12 different worlds in the past 50 years. His reputation for cruelty made even other Vorthan officers nervous around him. Vex Khan called together his war council to discuss the human threat. His officers gathered in the command room, their green scales shining under the red lights that Vorthans preferred. The general showed them pictures of human cargo ships and passenger vessels, asking how such pathetic creatures could possibly threaten their mighty empire. Commander Torvex spoke first, reminding everyone that humans had not fought a real war in 400 years. Their military was just a few old patrol ships used for rescuing stranded travelers. The human colonies were defended by antique weapons that would break apart if they tried to fire them. Any Vorthan child could defeat these soft mammals in battle. The council agreed that humans were no threat at all. They had grown weak and stupid during their long peace. The galaxy had spoiled them by treating them like equals instead of the inferior creatures they really were. The attack on New Sol Colony would teach other species what happened when they forgot their proper place on Earth. The transformation was happening faster than anyone thought possible. Factories that had made farming equipment for centuries were now producing plasma cannons and missile launchers. The workers seemed to remember skills their grandparents had taught them, even though they had never used those skills before. Shipyards across human space launched new vessels every day. These were not the slow cargo ships that aliens were used to seeing. The new ships had names like Righteous Fury and Remember New Sol and Dragonfire. They moved through space like hunting animals, looking for prey instead of floating like gentle giants. Admiral Kim Gi-woo took command of the flagship Dragonwrath, a massive vessel that dwarfed anything the galaxy had seen. In 400 years, the ship was painted black with red markings that looked like flowing blood. Its weapons could destroy entire space stations with a single shot. Its shields could absorb the firepower of 100 enemy ships. Captain Osia led the first human strike force into Vorthan territory. Her battle group consisted of 12 ships that appeared at the edge of enemy space without warning. The Vorthans had thought their borders were protected by sensor networks that could detect approaching fleets from light years away. Their human ships used jump technology that alien scientists believed was impossible. They appeared inside Vorthan space like ghosts, materializing from nothing. The enemy had no time to prepare defenses or call for reinforcements. Captain Oceanmi broadcast one message before the battle began. The message was simple and terrifying. The humans had come to collect payment for New Sol Colony. Every Vorthan military officer who participated in the massacre would be hunted down and destroyed. Anyone who tried to protect them would share their fate. The galaxy would learn that some actions had consequences beyond imagination. The Battle of Kepler Station lasted exactly 6 minutes. Captain Ocean faced a Vorthan patrol fleet of 60 ships with her small force of 12. The enemy commander was confident that his superior numbers would guarantee victory. He had never fought humans before and did not understand what he was facing. The human weapons cut through Vorthon shields like hot knives through butter. Energy beams that should have been stopped by enemy armor passed through like the metal was made of paper. The alien ships exploded one after another while the human vessels remained untouched by return 5 Orcs. Admiral Kexnon tried to retreat when he realized his fleet was being destroyed, but the human ships moved faster than anything he had ever seen. They surrounded his forces and picked them off one by one like a pack of hunters killing prey. The admiral managed to escape in a damaged cruiser with only 5 other ships. Captain Oceanmi allowed the survivors to flee on purpose. She wanted them to carry a message back to their leaders. The message was that this had been an act of mercy. The next time humans would not be so generous. The Vorthans would receive no more warnings about what was coming for them. News of the battle spread across the galaxy faster than light speed. Species that had forgotten human military power suddenly remembered old stories their ancestors had told. The peaceful farmers and traders were gone. In their place stood warriors who made the galaxy tremble with fear. The Altarian Merchants Guild immediately issued a statement condemning the Vorthan attack on New Sol Colony. They offered to help negotiate a peaceful solution while secretly moving their fleets away from human space. The guild leaders remembered tales of the last human war and did not want to become targets. The Celestial Banking Consortium froze all Vorthan accounts and refused to process any financial transactions involving their empire. The bankers were terrified that humans might consider them enemy collaborators if they continued doing business with the species that had murdered human civilians. Ambassador Keltar sent urgent messages to every government in the galaxy warning them about what he had learned on Earth. The humans were not the gentle creatures everyone believed them to be. They were apex predators who had chosen to be peaceful. The choice could be changed at any moment. The Hegemony Council held emergency sessions trying to find a way to prevent total war. The council members studied classified files about the military capability that had been sealed for centuries. The numbers were so frightening that several representatives fainted when they saw the ancient species that had witnessed the rise and fall of entire civilizations began sharing stories they had tried to forget. The Eternal Keepers had records of humanity. Last rampage across the galaxy. The old files described battles where human fleets had destroyed enemy homeworlds in single attacks. General Vex Karn received reports of the Kepler station battle but refused to believe them. His officers told him that 12 human ships had destroyed 60 Vorthan vessels without taking any damage. The general accused his subordinates of cowardice and lies. Nobody could be that much stronger than the mighty Vorthan Empire, but deep in his command, Bunker Vex Khan studied the battle recordings over and over again. The human ships moved like they were alive, hunting and killing with perfect coordination. The weapons they used were far beyond anything the Vorthans possessed. The general began to feel something he had never experienced before. Fear was a new emotion for Vex Khan, but he could not ignore what he was seeing. The humans were not coming to negotiate or make threats. They were coming to kill everyone responsible for New Sol Colony. The dragon had awakened, and its teeth were sharper than anyone had imagined. The Galactic Stock Exchange crashed when news of Kepler Station reached the core worlds. Traders who had built their fortunes on peaceful commerce watched their investments disappear in hours. Species that had grown comfortable during the long peace suddenly realized they had been living next to sleeping monsters. The market panic spread faster than plague on Altair Prime. The Merchants Guild held emergency meetings in underground bunkers. Guild Master Zenkel had lived for 300 years and remembered stories his grandfather told about the old days when humans went to war. The galaxy burned. Everything they had built during the peace could be destroyed. If they chose the wrong side, the guild immediately sent messages to every human world offering full support for their war against the Vorthans. They promised free shipping for military supplies and opened their private communication networks to human forces. The merchants hoped their quick surrender would save them from the coming Stormfleet. Admiral Kim Giwoo stood in the command center of Dragonwrath, watching his forces grow stronger every day. Ships arrived from every human world bringing soldiers who had volunteered to fight. The admiral saw farmers and teachers and shopkeepers learning to use weapons their ancestors had mastered centuries ago. Engineer Nam Hosiok had worked miracles at the Titan shipyards, producing warships faster than anyone thought possible. The construction bays that had built one cargo vessel per month now launched 3 battleships every week. Hosiok barely slept as he pushed his workers to meet impossible deadlines. Each ship carried names that honored the dead of New Sol Colony. The battlecruiser Sorrelite was commanded by Captain Lee Jun-ho, who had lost his own family to pirates decades earlier. The destroyer Day of Vengeance was crewed entirely by volunteers from farming worlds who understood what the colonists had been trying to build. Captain Sianmi received command of the newest and most powerful ship in the human fleet, the Super Dreadnought. Remember, them carried enough firepower to destroy entire solar systems. Its black hull was painted with the names of every person who died at New Sol Colony written in letters that glowed red like blood. The Vorthan Empire desperately tried to find allies but discovered that terror was not the same as loyalty. Species that had obeyed them out of fear now saw a chance to escape the Hive Mind offered to switch sides if humans would protect their breeding worlds. The silicate crystals provided intelligence about Vorthan fleet movements. Ambassador Keltor advised his government to prepare for the worst after studying classified human military files. The Thraxian Republic had survived 3 galactic wars by staying neutral, but Keltor warned that neutrality might not be enough this time. The humans were different from any enemy the galaxy had ever seen. The Hegemony Council met in continuous session trying to find a diplomatic solution, but every proposal was rejected. Council Chairman Mordex had ruled the galaxy for 2 centuries and prided himself on preventing wars. Now he faced a crisis that diplomacy could not solve. General Vexkhan tried to rally his scattered forces but found that many Vorthan commanders were afraid to fight. The reports from Kepler, the station, had spread throughout the Empire along with stories about human capabilities that seemed terrible to believe. Some Vorthan fleets simply disappeared rather than face the approaching human armada. The first major engagement came when human forces appeared simultaneously at 12 Vorthan worlds. The attacks were coordinated with precision that showed the humans had been planning this campaign for longer than anyone realized. Each strike force knew exactly what targets to hit and how to cause maximum damage. Pento Xianmi led the assault on Vorthan prime orbital defenses. The mighty fortress that protected their home world had never been seriously threatened in over 500 years. Its massive guns and impenetrable shields made other species afraid to even approach the system. The battle lasted 47 minutes. The Remember Them and her escort ships moved through the defensive grid like dancers performing a deadly ballet. Every shot found its target while enemy fire seemed to pass harmlessly through empty space. The fortress that had stood for centuries became glowing debris in less than an hour on the surface of Vorthan Prime. Millions of civilians watched their orbital defenses die. Pieces of burning metal fell from the sky like deadly rain. The civilians had always believed their military was invincible. Now they saw human ships floating above their world like dark angels of death. General Vexkhan received reports from all 12 attacked worlds and realized the scope of human planning. Every major Vorthan military installation had been hit simultaneously. The attacks were surgical in their precision, destroying only military targets while leaving civilian areas untouched. The Eternal Archive of the Celestial Librarians was the oldest repository of knowledge in the galaxy. Ancient beings who had witnessed the rise and fall of countless civilizations maintained records that stretched back millions of years. The librarians rarely spoke to other species, but the human war made them break their silence. Chief Librarian Zenth was 10,000 years old and had seen every major conflict in galactic history. He called together representatives from 50 species to share knowledge that had been kept secret. The archive contained detailed records of humanity lost war for centuries ago. The records were terrifying in their scope. Human fleets had conquered half the galaxy in less than 50 years. They had destroyed entire species that opposed them and enslaved others. The war had only ended when humans chose to stop fighting, not because anyone had defeated them. Ancient beings who remembered the old days began sharing stories they had tried to forget. The Silicon Prophets spoke of human commanders who treated war like art, using strategy and tactics that no other species could understand. The Crystal Mines described weapons that could crack planets and ships that moved faster than thought. The Vorthon civilians began to panic as they realized what their leaders had done by attacking New Sol Colony. Children who had grown up hearing stories about Vorthan military superiority learned that there were monsters in the galaxy who were stronger than their protectors. Riots broke out on 17 Vorthan worlds as civilians demanded their government surrender before the humans arrived. Vorthan soldiers found themselves fighting their own people instead of preparing to fight the approaching enemy. The empire that had been held together by fear was falling apart from within. Admiral Kim Gi broadcast a message to every world in Vorthan space. The message was simple and terrifying. The human fleet was coming to collect justice for New Sol Colony. Anyone who interfered would be treated as an enemy. Anyone who helped would be spared. The choice was theirs to make. The message included footage from the Battle of Kepler Station, showing human ships destroying Vorthon forces with contemptuous ease. The Admiral wanted everyone to understand what they were facing so they could make informed decisions about their survival. General Vexkhan watched the human message from his bunker deep beneath Vorthan Prime and finally understood the magnitude of his mistake. He had ordered the massacre of 3,000 innocent people, thinking it would make other species fear his empire. Instead, he had awakened something that made his empire look like children playing with toys. The dragon was no longer sleeping, it was hunting, and its prey had nowhere to hide. The galaxy remembered why they had once feared the name human. The final battle began at dawn above Vorthon Prime. General Vexkhan commanded 2,000 ships in the largest fleet the Vorthan Empire had ever assembled. He stood on the bridge of his flagship watching human vessels appear from hyperspace like dark stars being born. The enemy fleet was smaller, but something about their formation made his scales crawl with fear. Admiral Kim Ji-woo led 1,500 human ships into battle with the calm confidence of a predator that knew it could not lose. The Dragon Wrath moved at the center of the formation, surrounded by vessels with names that honored the dead. The Admiral had waited 400 years for this moment and would not waste it on mercy. The two fleets faced each other across the void of space, while civilians on the planet below watched from their hiding places. This would be the first major fleet battle between humans and aliens in centuries. The outcome would determine whether the galaxy remembered why they used to fear human warriors. General Vex Khan opened communications with Admiral Kim Gi-woo, hoping to negotiate a surrender that would save some of his ships. The Vorthon commander had finally realized he was facing an enemy far beyond his understanding, but the human admiral response crushed any hope of mercy. Admiral Kim Gi-woo looked directly into the camera with eyes that held no warmth or forgiveness. He spoke slowly so every word would be understood by the aliens who had murdered innocent children. The Vorthons had shown no mercy to civilians who could not defend themselves. They would receive none in return. The battle began when Captain Oceanmi led the first attack wave. Remember them, and her escort ships moved through enemy formations. Like sharks through schools of fish, the human vessels fought with perfect coordination as if they shared a single mind that knew exactly how to kill most efficiently. Von ships exploded in brilliant flashes of light. As human weapons found their targets, the aliens tried to fight back, but their shots seemed to miss by impossible margins, while every human beam cut through armor like it was made of paper. The technological gap was wider than anyone had imagined. General Vex Khan watched his flagship escorts die around him and realized he was seeing the end of his empire. The humans fought with cold precision that showed they had been planning this battle for much longer than just a few weeks. They knew exactly how to destroy technology. The breakthrough came when Admiral Kim Ji-woo personally led Dragon Wrath against the enemy command group. His massive ship carved through Vorthon formations, leaving trails of wreckage behind. The other human vessels followed like a spear point, driving deep into the heart of enemy resistance. Captain Lee Junho commanded Sura Light in a duel against 3 Vorthon heavy cruisers. The odds should have been impossible, but the human captain used tactics that made the enemy ships shoot each other while trying to hit him. His vessel danced between enemy fire like it was performing a ballet of death. The turning point came when Dragon Wrath faced General Vex Khan Dreadnought in single combat. The two massive ships exchanged fire at point-blank range while their fleets battled around them. The Vorthon general had confidence in his flagship's superior armor and weapons, but human engineering proved far more advanced. Admiral Kim Ji-woo weapons tore through Vex Khan's shields and armor like they were made of thin metal. The Vorthon dreadnought systems failed one by one until the general realized his ship was dying around him. He tried to surrender, but the human admiral had already made his decision about mercy. The Dragon Wrath main guns charged with energy that made space itself seem to bend. The final shot vaporized the Vorthon flagship in a flash of light that could be seen from the planet's surface. General Vex Khan died knowing he had doomed his entire species by attacking people who could not fight back. The remaining Vorthon ships tried to retreat but found themselves surrounded by human vessels that had anticipated their every move. The battle became a systematic destruction of everything that remained of enemy military power. The humans took no prisoners and accepted no surrenders. Vorthon Prime surrender came 3 hours after the space battle ended. The planet military commanders contacted Admiral Kim Ji-woo, directly offering to give up all officers who had participated in the New Seoul massacre. The civilians were ready to cooperate fully to avoid further destruction. Admiral Kim Gi-woo accepted the planet's surrender, but made it clear that justice would still be served. Every officer who had been at New Seoul Colony would face trial on Earth. The trials would be public so the galaxy could see what happened to those who murdered innocent people. The aftermath of the battle reshaped galactic politics in ways that would last for centuries. The Hegemony Council granted humanity permanent seats on all major governing bodies with veto power over any decision that affected human interests. Trade agreements were renegotiated heavily in human favor. Species across the galaxy added new holidays to their calendars. Remember New Seoul Day honored the victims of Vorthon brutality. Never Again Day celebrated the lesson that attacking peaceful people could have consequences beyond imagination. Both holidays included ceremonies where alien children learned about human military history. Captain Oceanmi was promoted to admiral and given command of the new galactic peacekeeping force. Her ships patrolled trade routes, ensuring that the kind of unprovoked attack that destroyed New Seoul Colony would never happen again. The sight of human warships reminded everyone to behave peacefully. Engineer Nam Hoseok returned to civilian shipbuilding, but the designs he created were different now. Cargo vessels and passenger ships carried hidden weapons that could be activated if threats appeared. The galaxy learned that every human ship might be more dangerous than it looked. The trials of Vorthon war criminals took place in the same courtroom on Earth where justice had been served for centuries. The proceedings were broadcast to every world, so all species could understand what happened to those who committed genocide. The verdicts were unanimous, and final Admiral Kim Gu-woo returned to Earth as a hero, but visited the war memorial every day to add new names. The memorial now included a special section for New Seoul Colony, with holographic displays showing the victims as they had lived before the attack. Children came to learn about the price of peace. The galaxy had learned that humanity's greatest strength was not their technology or their weapons. It was their ability to love so deeply that attacking their families transformed peaceful farmers into the most feared warriors in known space. The dragon had returned to sleep, but everyone knew it was just resting. Trade resumed and commerce flourished under the new system where humans guaranteed Safe passage for all peaceful species. The galaxy was more prosperous than ever before, because everyone understood the rules. Nobody wanted to wake the dragon again. The last entry in the official war record was simple but complete. New Sol Colony, 3,000 civilians murdered by Vorthan forces. Justice complete. The galaxy remembers. Humanity never forgets. The dragon sleeps but dreams of protecting its children in distant worlds. Human families continued their peaceful lives, growing food and building machines that made life better for everyone. Their children played in safe streets and learned about the universe in schools that would never be bombed. The dragon slept peacefully, knowing its family was protected, but in secret places throughout human space, weapons remained ready and ships waited in hidden bases. The peaceful farmers and merchants would always be ready to become warriors again if anyone threatened the people they loved. The galaxy was safe as long as it remembered the lesson of New Sol Colony. The dragon dreamed of peace, but its claws stayed sharp.